Karen thought destroying my dream retirement lawn was just harmless fun, until she discovered what happens when you mess with an electrician who knows exactly how deep concrete foundations go. For 4 months straight, this entitled maniac used my corner lot as her personal shortcut. Every single morning, that pearl-white Mercedes GLS class, roaring across my $3,000 professionally seated fescue like she owned the entire subdivision, tearing up my life. And my peace. I'm Walter Dixon, 54, a retired union master electrician, spent 30 years making sure infrastructure stayed exactly where it was supposed to be, from hospital power grids to skyscraper cabling. When my wife Susan started her early-stage Alzheimer's journey, we needed sanctuary, and this corner lot in Creekwood Trails was it. I poured all my savings and sweat into that turf, the underground irrigation system I wired myself, the soil amendments that smelled like a rich, earthy chocolate cake. It was my project, our quiet place to heal, our small piece of the American dream. Then came the Queen of Creekwood, Veronica Thorne, 40-something, highlights that cost more than my monthly mortgage, and an attitude that could curdle industrial strength. Milk? She lived in the neighborhood's biggest, gaudiest house, think Tuscan Villa meets a small-town bank branch, with her husband, Mitchell, who owned Thorne Development. The guys who built this entire place. Her license plate actually read V-Thorne. Subtlety was, apparently, a felony in her world. The first time I saw those deliberate tire ruts carved through the fresh sod, I thought, okay, honest mistake. Maybe, she swerved. Day 2, the exact same track, same time. Day 3, I pulled the footage from my newly installed security camera. Bingo. Every 7:52 a.m., Veronica would bypass a 30-second detour and gun it straight across my lawn, spraying gravel and diesel exhaust like she was late for a royal execution. So I tried to be civil, walked across the street, introduced myself, tried to smile. "Excuse me, Mrs. Thorne, I'm Walter, your new neighbor. I noticed you've been cutting across my property line." She didn't even drop her garden trowel. "Maybe you shouldn't plant your little pet grass so close to the pavement, Walter. It's a free country, and frankly, I prefer my route." My electrician brain started calculating amperage draw and load-bearing concrete. "Ma'am, that's my property. I have the survey stakes." That's when she finally looked up with a smile that belonged in a cheap horror movie trailer. "Are you threatening me, Walter? My husband built this entire subdivision. I sit on the HOA board. You're about to learn how things work here. I'd be very, very careful about making accusations." The way she said very twice, like a physics professor explaining gravity to a toddler, just sent a cold shiver down my spine. Walking home, my work boots crunched on the drive, each step feeling like a countdown. Susan was watching through the front window, and I could see the worry, the tremor in her hands amplified by the stress. That night, I pulled out my old electrical code books and started researching. 30 years of installing permanent, immovable infrastructure taught me one thing. When you pick a fight with someone whose specialty is stability, you better be damn sure you're standing on solid ground. Because I was about to teach Veronica the difference between temporary inconvenience and permanent consequence. My first move? Lighting. Tactical. I spent the weekend installing what I called the courtesy illumination system. Low-voltage landscape floods, motion-activated, positioned every 6 feet along the property line, perfect, watertight, code-compliant. Monday. Morning 7:52 a.m. Veronica's Mercedes screams around the corner, hits the first sensor, and bam! 8,000 lumens of pure white light turn her windshield into a miniature sun. The screech of her brakes was better than my morning coffee. She sat there for a full minute, probably seeing spots, then laid on the horn like she was announcing the end of days, and finally sped off. Tuesday, same light show. Wednesday, I added a professional private property, electronic surveillance, so that's when Veronica declared war. Thursday night, the security system chirps like an angry bird. There she is, on the infrared camera, dressed head to toe in black, a suburban commando systematically kicking over every single landscape light with the sheer, unbridled rage of an entitled toddler. I just watched it happen, a quiet smile creeping across my face. What she didn't know was that I hadn't just wired the lights. I'd installed a hospital-grade battery backup for the cameras. While she destroyed the primary system, the secondary cameras kept rolling, catching her face, her designer shoes, and every muttered curse word in glorious high-def. Friday, I got the official HOA complaint. Excessive lighting, disturbing tranquility, public safety hazard. Signed, Veronica Thorne, HOA Treasurer. I filed the vandalism claim with my insurance company. Then I called a friend, my old surveyor, Pete. Pete's voice sounded like gravel and cheap cigars over the phone. "Walter, you paranoid son of a gun. But sure, I'll squeeze you in. Union. Discount, naturally." Before Pete could even show up, the insurance investigator was there. Those guys are thorough. He had his laser measuring devices out, checking the broken lights, and then he paused at my property markers. "Mr. Dixon," he said, adjusting his device with that familiar precision, "I think you might want a professional survey. These property markers look significantly off." That metallic taste of anticipation filled my mouth. Veronica hadn't just handed me a vandalism claim. She'd given me the key to her entire operation. Pete arrived with his full crew, their gear making my laser level look like a kid's toy. The sharp scent of spray paint and the methodical click of their instruments reminded me of my own work ethic. Measure 3 times, install once, document. Everything. "Jesus Christ on a cracker, Walter," Pete finally muttered, rechecking his readings with the intensity of a brain surgeon. "You own 18 feet more than those fake markers show. This whole corner where NASCAR Veronica likes to play, that's been your land the entire time." The bright orange paint of the new survey flags created a new reality across my lawn. Veronica's daily shortcut wasn't just crossing my property. She was driving across nearly 20 feet of my legally owned land. But then Pete pointed to her fancy decorative retaining wall. "See that stonework, Walter? The whole damn thing sits 4 feet onto your property. Cost Mitchell probably 20 grand to build, and it's been illegal since day one." That evening, Veronica came clicking across my driveway in her designer heels, the sound like little hammers on concrete, aggressive and impossible to ignore. "What the hell is this, Walter?" she snarled, gesturing at the orange flags like they were personally offensive. "You can't just magically move property lines because you're having a breakdown about neighborhood traffic." I handed her Pete's official survey report, heavy paper crackling with authority. "Mrs. Thorne, according to this licensed surveyor, you've been criminally trespassing on my property every day for 4 months, and that gorgeous retaining wall, also on my land." Her face cycled through more colors than a traffic signal having a seizure. "That's impossible. Mitchell built this entire development. He knows exactly where." I cut her off with a smile that felt sharp enough to cut glass. "Oh, he absolutely does. The original 2018 survey shows these exact boundaries. The mysteriously corrected version from 2020 has your husband's signature all over it." Instead of backing down, she stepped closer, dropping her voice to a whisper that somehow sounded more dangerous than screaming. "You stupid blue-collar piece of trash," she hissed, the venom hitting me like a physical slap. "You think you can waltz into our neighborhood and start making demands? Mitchell and I own this place. We decide who belongs here and who doesn't. And people who cause problems for us, well, they tend to find life gets very, very difficult." The smell of her expensive perfume mixed with the metallic taste of pure fury in my mouth. This wasn't about grass anymore. This was about class, power, and who got to decide the rules. After she stormed off, I made 2 calls, one to a real estate attorney, the other to a commercial concrete contractor I'd used for years. My background taught me that the most elegant solutions look deceptively simple. I spent 2 days calculating the exact point where Veronica's momentum and stupidity would intersect at 25 miles per hour. The foundation went 5 feet deep, rebar reinforcement, the same specs I'd use for a high-voltage electrical pole. The Ballard itself, 42 inches of reinforced concrete with a decorative granite cap. Perfectly legal. Absolutely, immovably permanent. Tuesday. Morning. I was sitting at my kitchen window, coffee in hand, front row seat ready. Susan was behind me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. 7:52 a.m. on the dot. Veronica's white Mercedes came screaming around the corner, following the exact, arrogant trajectory she'd carved into my life for 4 months. The moment of impact was everything I'd calculated. The metallic screech of rim against concrete, the explosive pop of the tire, the satisfying, sickening crunch of expensive German engineering discovering American mathematics. Her GLS lurched sideways like a wounded animal, suspension components singing their death song as the wheel well crumpled against my perfectly positioned monument to property rights. I stepped onto my front porch with the casual satisfaction of someone whose morning coffee had just gotten significantly better. "Good morning, Mrs. Thorne. That's a decorative garden feature. I installed it while you were away." She emerged from the wreckage like a fury rising from the underworld, surrounded by the smell of antifreeze and burnt rubber. "You did this on purpose. You set a trap." I simply held up Pete's survey documentation like a shield made of legal paper. "Ma'am, that ballard is 8 inches inside my property line, professionally installed according to municipal standards. Perhaps you should consider using the public street instead of my private property." Her ultimate meltdown, her attempt to use the city's corrupt code officer to fine me, her desperate hiring of a yellow excavator crew to illegally remove the ballard, it all unraveled live on my security cameras. The final act was the city council meeting, packed with neighbors who'd also been victims of Mitchell's development fraud. When the FBI agent stepped forward from the back of the room, announcing a federal investigation into Mitchell's $2 million land theft operation across 3 counties, and the color drained from Veronica's face, that was the real victory. 6 months later, justice has a flavor all its own. Veronica pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges, 18 months in prison, $53,000 in restitution to the neighbors whose land she stole. Mitchell got 3 years. My wife and I, we donated our entire settlement to start the Creekwood Justice Fund, helping other folks fight contractor fraud. Susan's symptoms have stabilized dramatically, the stress is gone, and her laughter fills our backyard again. My ballard still stands proud, now decorated with Susan's flowers and a small plaque reading, "A community stands together, Eastern 2024. The beautiful part? A wonderful young couple with twin toddlers just moved into Veronica's old house. But I noticed their contractor installing a fence that might encroach on Mrs. Patterson's property line. And I saw Mrs. Patterson already taking her signature. Meticulously detailed photographs. Some lessons, I suppose, bear repeating. I'm curious, what would you have done in my shoes when the HOA and the police refused to help? Do you think the homeowner was right to escalate the situation, or did he go too far with the ballard? Drop a comment below and tell me your neighbor nightmare. I read every single story.